My name is Alan Laws. I'm with the National Citizens Movement. I'm speaking today to the people of Carlow and Kilkenny, and I'm particularly speaking to the people of rural Carlow and Kilkenny. And I'm saying to them, why would you want to vote for Elizabeth Hourihane? Here's what I think you should consider when you're making your vote. Elizabeth, when she talks about public transport, people in rural Ireland know quite well that they're dependent on transport. Young people in particular are dependent on transport from Carlow and Kilkenny to probably get to the universities and some of them to their jobs outside the area. Also, older people are dependent on rural transport. Now, as you know, there's a strike on here the bank holiday weekend with Dublin Bus. That strike will affect you because what they're trying to do is privatise the bus service. If they privatise the bus service, your free travel pass for the old people and disabled people, your free travel pass is at risk. And Elizabeth Hourihane will fight for you to prevent the privatisation of the rural bus service. Rural Ireland also, particularly Carlow and Kilkenny, has suffered from the closure of post offices, has suffered from the closure of Garda stations, and like I already said about the transport links. Elizabeth Hourihane will fight to stop that. Elizabeth Hourihane will fight for the people of rural Ireland. Now we look also at the farming community, and what Elizabeth Hourihane wants out of politicians is accountability. Now you look what happened to small farmers in particular when you talk about the cap payments and you talk about transparency and accountability. Simon Coveney has publicised on the Department of Agriculture's websites cap payments that's being paid to farmers. So basically, if you're your professional burglar sitting at home, you can go on to the Department of Agriculture now. You can look at the names of all different farmers and what they've got and how much they got in cap payments. And you can see the postal district where they live. Now I think that's unfair. Compare that transparency. Simon Coveney says that they're receiving taxpayers' money, so therefore they should be transparent. Compare that to Catherine Murphy making a freedom of information request about taxpayers' money also. Taxpayers' money paid to Dennis O'Brien and SiteServe, 5 million paid to shareholders, we never know who they are. Catherine Murphy made a freedom of information request. She got 20 blank pages in return. That's what Elizabeth Hourihane, when Elizabeth Hourihane talks about transparency, it's very unfair that the farming community have their meagre payments in some instances being paid to farmers out in the public, that everybody knows what they receive, and yet billionaires like Dennis O'Brien, we get 20 blank pages in return when we make a freedom of information request. Elizabeth Hourihane will call for fairness in that area, and actual fact that the farmers shouldn't have to disclose their earnings so publicly when Dennis O'Brien is able to hide his. But that's what Fine Gael are doing for rural Ireland. But lastly, when we talk about the milk quotas and we talk about cap payments, the farming community knows, the small farmer knows, when it talks about cap payments, it's the ranchers that's gained our cap payments. Small farmers have lost out, the same as small businessmen have lost out in city areas, and workers have lost out as well. Small farmers are always at the end of everything. It's the elite farmers that gain when it comes to cap payments. Now we look at milk quotas. Milk quotas now, the quota system is gone. People can produce as much milk as they like. Again, the ranchers are in the position to go to borrow money. The ranchers are in the position to triple, to quadruple their output when it comes to milk. The small farmer finds it hard to get a loan. The small farmer will find it hard to expand his herd. But what will happen, what Simon Coveney hasn't explained to rural Ireland, is their carbon output and their carbon footprint of Ireland now will go up. And because we're linked to the European Union, if our carbon output goes up, we'll have to pay penalties. And of course, what will happen then? The small farmer, the worker and the businessman living in Carlow and Kilkenny will pay extra taxes on their carbon output, while the ranchers will make millions. It's the same again. If you want rural Ireland to have equal access to everything, to be treated equally and with respect, vote number 1 for Elizabeth Hourihane.